Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning into my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about plants. Before I was a real mom, I was a plant mom, and I want to give you a tour of all of the houseplants that we have currently in our apartment. I think I have about 10 plants, some doing more successfully than others, but I'm going to be showing you guys all the different plant varieties that I have, as well as off the cuff naming my plants, which should be fun. And then I'm going to end the video with a couple of plant care tips for anyone who's interested in taking care of plants in their own space, especially since we're stuck at home. You might as well bring the outdoors inside by having some plants in your space. If this is your first time here, hey, what's up? Hello, I'm Ijeoma Kola, and feel free to hit that subscribe button. I make videos every single week about a variety of topics, mostly lifestyle related, but I do have a hair video coming up next week that you should definitely stay tuned for if you are interested in seeing some hair content. It's been a long time since I did a hair video, but I'm excited about this one. Yeah, without further ado, let us get into my houseplant tour. Before I get started, I should mention that I am wearing overalls because I feel like overalls make me feel like a farmer. It's actually maternity overalls from when I was pregnant. The only overalls I have, so they're the overalls y'all don't get. Okay, so the first plant that I want to show you guys is my beautiful palm. It's actually the most recent plant in my collection. I just got it last weekend. I believe it is either a cat palm or an Erika palm. If you know what kind of palm this is, please let me know what it is. I wanted a really large plant in this corner of the living room, so this is my most recent plant. I don't know, it's giving me like royal, ethereal vibes. What am I gonna name it? It's so big. It actually reminds me of a majestic being, so I think I'm gonna name this one Majesty. This is Majesty. So the second plant that I have in the living room is a Monstera. So it's actually two Monsteras potted together. They are both variegated, so their leaves are two-tone, which is really, really pretty and really beautiful. And I have them just sitting on top of a stand right here. I'm gonna tell you guys where I got each and every single plant and the pots down below in the description box, so you can find out where I got them. Because there are two Monsteras potted in one pot, I'm going to call this Ijeoma, which means twins in Igbo, because they're like twins and they just share the same womb, right? Does that make sense? Yeah, so that's the Monstera. So those are the two plants that we have in the living room. The living room has tons of bright light, so these are plants that do really well with bright light or like bright indirect light, so that's why they both live here. And they're also some of the bigger plants that I have in the apartment, so they just really command attention and frame our TV, and they're really pretty to look at when we're sitting on the couch and watching TV. The next two plants are kind of in the hallway, but still there's a lot of light in this area. So this is an Anthurium plant. This Jonathan got me for Valentine's Day, and it has these really pretty like pink leaves. So when I think about this plant, I think of love. So I'm gonna name this one Hera, which is love in Luo, which is Jonathan's language. This is an elephant ear plant. I actually don't know what kind of alocasia species it is, so if you know, please do let me know. This was the first plant that we got in this apartment. We actually got it as a housewarming gift from Jonathan's god sister, and it's also the most successful plant. I think we got it with 3 leaves, and now it has 7 leaves, so it's been doing really, really well. I'm going to name this one Ijeoma, which means good thing, since it's our most successful plant. So I had to get down on the ground for this one. This is our umbrella plant, or it might be a dwarf umbrella. Not 100% sure. I also got this over the last weekend because I wanted something in the office. This pot has a really funny story. I actually bought the pot before I bought the plant. When Chizzy and Nkenji were here, they wanted to take pictures on the side of the road, and this woman was selling pots, and I felt really bad because we were just like standing in her nursery, like not buying anything. So I ended up buying this pot because I loved the splatter, and the gray color matches with the gray rug that we have here in the office. So I knew this was gonna go in the office. I've been looking for a plant to fit in it. Because this is on the shorter side, I'm actually gonna call this Kevin Hart. Especially when we're doing a lot of work, I think that we need some levity in this room, so this is Kevin Hart. Also in the office are these 2 succulents. They actually usually sit in the windowsill, but I realize that I forget about them there. As you can see, they're a little bit on the dry side. So this is an agave, I'm pretty sure, and then this one I think is a chick's hen succulent. I don't know what to name these 2 at all. These are like the forgotten plants in this household. I'm hoping that by bringing them off the windowsill, I remember them a bit more. So yeah, maybe you guys can help me name these ones because I don't know what to name them. Leave your suggestions down below in the comment section. So now we're in the office bathroom. This is a jade plant. As you can see, it's actually pretty diseased. Again, this is a very forgotten plant because we never, ever, ever use the office bathroom. It has a ton of light. It's beautifully lit, but we never come in here. So when I get to the tip section, I'm gonna share a bit about how you should think about placement for plants, because if you forget about a plant, that's not good. Since it is very problematic, do I wanna call it Kanye or do I wanna call it Ja Rule? I do like alliteration. I'm gonna call this plant Ja Rule. If you guys watched the Fire Festival documentary, then you would understand why this plant is called Ja Rule, because a mess. In this corner of our bedroom, we have Fiddle Leaf Fig. Very, very difficult plant to grow. Need a lot of sun. This corner, because it has 2 windows, is really prime for that. So we keep it in this corner. It actually was on the floor. I just picked it up off the floor because now that we have moved the baby out of the room, there's just a lot more space in here. So I want this to be like a focal point. The fiddle's the only one that I already knew the name, and the fiddle is Fela, like Fela the fiddle. Doesn't it make so much sense? Because it's like fiddle, they're not for everyone, you know, they're mostly great, but also are like slightly controversial. But then also fiddle is like a musical instrument, so I don't know. I thought the Fela would be a super cute name for our fiddle. So this is Fela the fiddle. And in the nursery, we have a snake plant. As you can see, this room doesn't have that much light. It has the least amount of light in the house. What, baby? A snake plant is really good for low light scenarios. Let me actually turn on the main light. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. It's in this corner. It's that far away from the window, so it's the furthest plant, excuse me. It's the plant that's the furthest away from the window. It's probably about 10 feet away from the window. So because snake plants are really reliable and just timeless and classic, I think I'm gonna call this one Sade. So I am done with all the plants in the house. We do have 2 plants outside. The goal is eventually to put a bunch of plants on the balcony. I haven't obviously done that yet, but we do have 1 plant on the balcony. It is a rubber plant. It's a pretty sturdy plant. It's in this humongous planter. And yeah, it just stays on our balcony. It's like a really easy plant. So I'm actually gonna call this rubber plant Beckwith. Such a random name, I know. In our last apartment, Jonathan insisted on calling one of the plants Beckwith. Like I asked him, I was like, oh, like what should we name this plant? He was like, oh, I know, Beckwith. So I felt that one of these plants had to be named Beckwith, and this is the one that is the most random and is outside. So this is Jonathan's plant. We're gonna call this one Beckwith. So now that I've given you a tour of the 11 plants that we have in our apartment, 10 if you don't count the jade. I saw this picture by Paola, and I hope that I'm saying her name right, and it just looked like an oasis. So I want to start with 1, but probably like a couple of plants in the bathroom. I've taken a bath once, but I would think that if I make it more into an oasis with some plants, that I'll be motivated to use the bathtub more. So I'm thinking that a spider plant would do really well there, and it has a lot of light. But for now, we just have 10 plants. So we've had some of these plants for 7 months, and we've had some of them for 7 days. So obviously they all require different amounts of light and water, and so I'm gonna share with you a couple of tips for how to take care of your house plants. So tip number 1 is to make sure that you buy the right plant for the space that you have. Plants really just need 2 things, light and water. They also need food. I haven't really gotten to the point yet where I'm fertilizing. Actually, I take that back. A couple of plants you might have seen have like burnt edges. I did try to do a DIY fertilizer one time with coffee and eggshells and banana peels, but I think the coffee was too strong and it actually ended up burning the leaves. So I'm not messing with the DIY stuff anymore. So if you know where to find plant food, please let me know down below. But you want to make sure that you buy a plant that serves the area that you want to put it in. So if you have a really bright space, then you know, something like a palm or a Monstera or a Fiddle Leaf Fig can work. But if you don't, like, there's no point in you getting a plant that isn't going to be able to sustain itself with the amount of light that you have. Immediately in front of a window is often considered bright light. About 5 feet away from a window is often considered indirect light or medium light. The further away you get is like low light. So make sure that you pick the right plant for your light. You also sort of want to consider humidity. I find that where we are, like, everything is pretty dry. Like, there's no humidity, but depending on where you live, if you live in a really humid environment, or if you're planning on putting a plant in a bathroom, there's some plants that like more moisture and more humidity than others. So you want to have that in mind as well. Tip number 2 is to buy from a reputable nursery and to use proper potting soil. So this is kind of like a 2-in-1. I will share with you a cautionary tale because I didn't do this. I was so desperate to have a bird of paradise to fill up this corner, and the only place I was seeing these birds of paradise plants were on the side of the road. So I went to someone on Gong Road, bought a bird of paradise plant, and they planted it for me. It grew 1 leaf, but it was just, it's so diseased, and I'll show it to you. It had mealybugs, it had scale. It's just a very diseased plant. I tried to trim off the leaves that were dying, but now it's like every leaf besides 1 is infected. So I just had to get rid of it. The pests started very shortly after we brought it into our home, so I knew it wasn't anything I did. It was a matter of not using the right nursery and not using the right soil. So right now I have it outside away from any other plant because I don't want that infestation to spread to any other plant. I'm pretty sure like this was just potted in dirt, so there is no like aeration. When plants grow in nature, it grows in dirt, that's fine because there are bugs, there are worms and stuff that add to the nutrients of the soil. But when it's in a pot and in a container, it needs specific potting mix in order to be properly fertilized. So you want to make sure that you're just not planting stuff in dirt. All right, my third tip, don't put a plant somewhere that you are not going to be checking on frequently. Out of sight, it means out of mind. Make sure you're putting your plants in a place that you're going to be able to observe them often. As I showed you earlier, that jade plant that's in the office bathroom struggles because I literally open that door once a month. Like I always forget it's there. I never go in there. So a better place for that definitely would have been probably in our bathroom that I use every single day, several times a day, because that way I can be checking up on it and looking at it. You know what? I probably will just move it to our bathroom once I snip off the leaves that are diseased. So my next tip is knowing when to water your plants. This is probably the #1 question that I find myself Googling about plants, especially when I get a new one, like how often do you water XYZ? There are 2 different strategies that I use to figure out when to water my plants. One is an app called Flourish. So you can just scroll through their selection and find a plant that you have. I've already added all my plants here. So for example, it says that the next time I should water my Monstera plant is in 2 days. But this is just a suggestion. This is like if you really don't know what you're doing, this is good to know. And there are other apps, but I found Flourish to be the most useful. This is also the app that I was mentioning where you point your camera, I think it's under Wizard. You scan your light, like say you want to have a plant right here. Like this is low light. Oh, actually this is not enough light. Like, this is a low light, and now you just scan. So now it shows you which plants can like be in this corner. So that is Flourish app. I have been using this for about a month now and I really, really like it. So that's one method of knowing when to water your plants. So the second method is by actually testing the moisture in the soil. This is like the OG method. Some people just stick their fingers into the soil. Once the top 2 inches of the soil is dry, that's when you can water again. I don't like to get my nails dirty, so I use a moisture meter, and what this does is it calculates the amount of moisture in the soil that you have. And mine came with this really handy dandy plant watering guides that has different names of plants and has what zone they should be in. So how this works is you want to water the plant when the moisture is in this corresponding zone. I actually haven't used this in a while, so let me find the Monstera. Do they have Monstera here? They don't. So I'm gonna Google Monstera moisture meter, and okay, it says that when the meter reads about a 3, that the soil is drying out and ready for water. So I'm going to grab my meter. I'm gonna stick the meter about right down in there. So So my Monstera is actually at a 1, which is shocking because I feel like I just watered it. When you're watering, you always want to make sure that you are using pots with drainage because you don't want water sitting at the bottom. And my last tip is to check on your plants daily. Even though you might have a schedule where you only need to water them once a week, you still want to give them a quick peek every single day just to check for bugs. I have a few plants that are really susceptible to bugs, like the Fiddle Leaf Fig tends to have mealybugs on it. So what I do is I use a spray that has some neem oil, or you can use like antibacterial soap. You can Google different like house plant pest remedies, but I just put that in a spray bottle and I spray it on my plants. I do like to mist my plants, not every day, like usually when I remember, which is usually every other day. So people mist them every day. Again, you should probably look up whether your plants really need to be misted every day. I watched Chasing the Niece's IG live she did a couple of weeks ago about plant care, and she mists her plants every day and she has like 50 plants and they all are doing fine. So I figure misting daily doesn't really hurt. I use this little mist bottle that I'm pretty sure Smith & Hawken, yeah, this is from Target. So that is my plant tour and plant tips and naming my plants video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions about the plants that I have, I am not a plant guru, so I probably can't answer your questions about your specific plant. And remember, don't forget to leave a comment down below with your suggestions for the 2 succulents that are in the office. I would love to know what you think that we should name them, because I really, quite frankly, ran out of name ideas. If you are a plant parent, let me know down below how many plants that you have, which kinds of plants that you have. The top 3 easiest plants to start with, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not a plant person, if you might have a little bit of low light in your apartment or in your house, are a snake plant, a ZZ plant, and a pothos. Those 3 are really, really, really low maintenance plants. You can forget about them for a while. They will not let you down. I think pothos is actually really beautiful. I feel like this bookcase in the living room could use a nice like viney plant. So who knows, maybe I'll add a pothos soon to my collection. And yeah, ZZ plants are also super easy. They don't die. We used to have a ZZ plant in our old apartment in our bathroom and did nothing to it, and it thrived. So those are my suggestions if you are looking for some plants that are pretty much foolproof and great for beginners. Thanks so much guys for watching this video. I hope that I will see you next week.